Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Name It, Claim It, End It, Racism. I am going to show you this screen really quickly and turn it around so that you can see. We're going to be going into this information momentarily, but I just wanted to begin with showing this screen, and then we are going to get into it. So let me turn this back around. Hey, Miss Claudia, how are you? All right. And we're going to make sure that you guys can see all of us, because, you know, we've been working on that. So you go ahead and sit, and I'm going to adjust this, and then I will join you guys. So let me welcome you guys back. Let me introduce you to the illustrious, the wonderful, the highly educated Miss Kujichagulia. She is a griot. She is an oral historian. She is a musician, a poet, a dancer, a teacher, a speaker. She is my mama and Taiwo's mother too. And then this is my beautiful sister, Taiwo Kujichagulia-Seitu. And then I am Kehinde Salter. And I am adjusting our camera angle so that you guys will be able to see everybody. So I am going to be doing that. Hey, John. I'm going to be doing that while they start talking. Okay.
All right, you know that the 4th of July will be celebrated next month. And we're trying to get situated here, tech difficulty. So I've put together some images that I'd like for people to see, because the images that I lived through in the 60s are still with us today, still waiting for change. That's called slow change. We want fast change, revolution. And when we celebrate the American Revolution of 1776 next month, that got Britain off America's neck, we are celebrating the revolution of 2020 to get racism off our necks. So I'm going to come around and hopefully, with the tech difficulties, let the audience see the screen images, and I'm going to just use my voice. All right, everyone.
So we're going to show you guys these pictures.
By watching this show, you are protesting. Don't think you have to go outside and march. I love, support, thank you for all the people locally and globally who are marching for justice. We are marching for the end of racism around the world, because wherever we have been colonized, there is racism. So we're going to move forward and see what we're talking about. So remember, the American Revolution of 1776 was a wonderful thing for America, and the Revolution of 2020, is a wonderful thing for America, fast change. So that's what we're looking at right now. So the time to end this crisis is now. I've been watching a lot of news shows, and news shows have been talking about America in crisis. See, according to white psychopathy, the crisis is not wanting to be subjected to white psychopathy. So when we stand up against racism, America considers that a crisis. In my mind, when you look at these images, America has always been in crisis. It's our job to eliminate the crisis. So what we want, you passed one. So what we want to do is help show you this reality. For the most part, most of us are in complete denial. We want to ignore this elephant in the room. And as long as we ignore this elephant of racism, we will remain steeped in this shit. So we can pretend it's not going on now. We can hope the protests end, but this revolution will not end, because this racism is determined to divide and conquer us. We have got to stop looking at ourselves as separate people, separate cultures, separate realities, because we all share the same experience of racism. We have got to come together. Okay, and let me see. I think we've got a... Okay. My apologies, folks. You have the old one. You didn't get the new one. All right. Okay, we are, apologies. Actually, this is the wrong presentation that we have up right now. So what we were looking at now is a lot of people want to talk about racism, but we really don't understand what racism is. That's what we want to do today. We confuse racism with prejudice. We just confuse racism with discrimination. But let's be very clear. These are three different things. Prejudice, racism, discrimination are three different things. So let's just talk about what they are quickly, and then we're going to try to get the correct images up for you. Okay, is this the latest one?
Yes, it's the
Give us just 1 minute, people. We're having a
one.
little technical difficulties. Okay, so we're still trying to get them. Let's be clear. Prejudice. Prejudice simply means to prejudge. What's the last email I sent to you? No, that ain't it. Okay. All right. Prejudice simply means to prejudge. So when I was little and my parents would say, we're going to go to Granny's house. This is it.
It's this one.
Okay, it's this one. All right, we finally got the right images up. Thank you for your patience. All right, here we go. So what's the difference? Prejudice, discrimination, bigotry, racism. Prejudice means prejudge. I remember when my parents said, we're going over to your grandmother's house, or you might hear it, and you would prejudge that situation. Do I want to go? Do I not want to go? You haven't even been there yet, but you have already judged whether or not it's going to be good or bad. That is prejudice. You prejudge something. You can prejudge anything. You can be prejudiced about anything. So prejudice within and of itself is not racism. It simply means prejudge. So if you're in your neighborhood and you look up and you see some new neighbors moving and you say, oh, look, there's a family of boop, 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 and you make a stereotypical comment, that's called prejudging. Prejudice. When people see me, they automatically stereotype me. They say, well, she's dressed in African attire. She must hate white people. Wrong. Well, she's dressed in African attire. She must hate she must be a Muslim. Wrong. Well, she's dressed in African attire. We've got to stop prejudging each other. That's prejudice, stereotyping people. But prejudice is not discrimination. Let's see what discrimination is. Prejudice happens in your mind. Discrimination is behavior. If you look next door and you see a group of move in and you just say, oh, look, there's a group of whatever, and you make a negative or whatever comment about them, you have prejudged them. Now, if you act on your prejudice, that's discriminating. If you act on your prejudice, you are discriminating. So if I actually go over there and burn a cross on their lawn, now I'm discriminating against them. That's still not racism. People are even say that they have discriminating taste. Oh, I have discriminating taste in wine, in jewelry, and clothes. We pick and choose. You go into your closet, you don't just pick the first thing you see. You discriminate. You judge what kind of day you're going to have and what you're going to wear. So you might have discriminating taste. Well, some people discriminate on others based on how they look. That's still your individual choice, but that's not racism. Let's go to bigotry. Now, you can be any color on earth and be a bigot. A lot of black folks are bigots. We have learned to hate like everybody else because if you have been raised in America, you learn one thing, and that is hate. You hate a lot of things. So the ironic reality of this is when you teach black folks something, because of the genius that black folks are, they end up doing it better than everybody. So you put a golf club in a black person's hands, you end up with a Tiger Woods. You put a basketball in a black person's hand, you end up with a Julius Erving, who's popular today. You put a bat in a black person's hand, you end up with a Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson. I know they're current people, but I don't know who they are. Well, same thing with racism. Black people are taught to hate black, so you teach black folks to hate black, and we will hate black folks better than anybody. This is a psychosis of the mind that we have to fix. But again, these happen in the mind. So let's talk about racism, because racism is totally different. So Mark Twain said that racism is the white man's disease. I agree with you, brother Mark Twain. Read a book, folks. It is the white man's disease. White psychopathy invented racism. Racism, and let's say exactly what it is. People want to say, oh, it's systematic racism. If it's racism, it's a system. So racism is the institutionalization of the myth of white supremacy, which is narcissistic psychosis, throughout every aspect of American society and every aspect of American culture. So when I infuse the myth of white supremacy throughout economics, education, entertainment, family, labor, law, politics, religion, and war, now I have racism. I have laws that will solidify white psychopathy in all these areas. And I'm going to have Taiwo and Kehinde read these definitions of narcissism and psychopathy, because I noticed that I don't know if the audience is seeing this. So let's be clear, and I want you to listen to these definitions clearly, and then I want you to think of your concept of racism. So let's start with narcissism.
Narcissism, an infantile level of personality development characterized by an inordinate fascination with oneself, expectations of overindulgence, extreme egocentricity, failure to learn from experience, and complete disregard for others. It is sometimes considered synonymous with sociopathy.
Sociopathy. Does that sound familiar? Has anyone ever experienced that kind of behavior in a racist culture? Yes, every day. It's psychopathy. And what exactly is psychopathy?
Psychopathy, an antisocial personality disorder characterized by an excessive need for admiration, grandiosity, and a complete lack of empathy and or remorse for others, distinguished by a persistent pattern of disregard for and violation of the social, civil, and human rights of others.
Deep. We all know what that is. That's racism. That is the white psychopathy of racism. Now, because racism will never give us the language to liberate ourselves from our own oppression, racism will only give us the language to reinforce our oppression. So racism has taught us to call whites what? Supreme. White supremacy, grandiosity, narcissism. But is that type of behavior supreme? Not at all. So here's another word that we need to stop using, folks. White supremacy. Stop using it. Every time we use the words white supremacy, every little child in earshot, whether they're white or not, start believing white is supreme. And why wouldn't they? We say those two words. Racism is very calculated. We have to be very clear of the words we use. It's not supremacy, it is psychopathy. White psychopathy. So let's look how this psychopathy, the red is always the top. Let's look how this psychopathy looks across society. This is racist propaganda and indoctrination. We showed you the definitions of black on Google. We showed you the definitions of black, dark. They're all over. They're in all the books. They're in all the magazines. They're in all the search engines. This racist psychopathy is with us no matter where we are. If you look up the definition, when you look up the definition of white, I don't care what search engine you use, you will see narcissism and psychopathy. You will see that white is called what? Supreme, superior, clean, innocent, godly, natural. Are you kidding? So we all learn this. We are given all the images to pretend this is true. We are constantly being indoctrinated with white psychopathy, this myth of white supremacy that is based on narcissism. So we are always told that that which is dark is horrible. Dark ages, dark day, dark memory, dark past. Every time you see the word dark used negatively, call it out. That's an elephant in the room. How many times do you use the word dark negatively? Check your language. Check yourself. We are promoting our own oppression because racism has given us the vocabulary to do so. This is not our darkest hour. This is our best time right now to change all this. This is a revolution, fast change. We've all been taught to use the word black negatively. I tell people I've been whiteballed. I've been whitelisted. I've been whitewashed. We have got to flip the script because little babies are listening. And every time we use these terms negatively, we are telling those children that they are inferior. And what's worse, we are reminding little white ears that they are superior. No one needs to grow up like that, thinking they're inferior or superior. And we do it with our language. And we had a comment about black on black crime. That's more language that we need to stop. Stop using the word black negatively. Stop using the word dark negatively. Stop using the words white positively. We reinforce white psychopathy every day, and you cannot get rid of racism unless you get rid of white psychopathy. So let's be clear about black. Let's see what the anthropological record shows about black. And one phrase that we must stop using immediately is because I'm black. Stop saying that. Because every time you say that, children learn, oh my gosh, it's horrible to be black. I didn't get the job because I was black. Lie. You didn't get the job because of racism. I didn't get the job because I didn't get the house because I was black. I didn't get the promotion because I was black. Wrong. Didn't happen because of racism. Stop blaming the victim. The victim is black folks, black. The problem is racism. It's not because one is black. Nothing happens because of anyone's color. Things happen because of one's thought process, their mind, and words determine how we think. So you've got to start looking at words differently. So what I want to do right now is I want to free our minds from the insanity of white psychopathy that has taught us to hate black. So what we need is a refresher course on what black is.
Refresher course!
Because you will never be taught this in school unless I am your teacher. No. So let's move on and see what is black. And I want to go through these images. It's going to take a little time, but we want to get to you. In the top corner, we see the black African goddess Ma'at. That is the black African goddess of justice. She is the goddess who will determine whether you are good enough to pass on into the afterlife. And how does that happen? She will ask you an array of questions. Have you been bad? No. Have you killed your wife? No. Have you done all these horrible things? And you must answer no. It's the process of asking questions to get to the truth. What do we call that today? We call that our illegal injustice system. That's the court system, where it comes from asking questions so you can get to the truth. In school, racist miseducation system calls that the Socratic seminar. There's nothing about Socrates about this. It's not a Socratic seminar. It is African concentric logic where you ask questions to get to the truth. Africans are the founders of justice. That's why justices wear black robes, because black is the symbol of justice. Let's go to education, because I want to make sure you see these words up here too. Black is the color of excellence, genius. Everybody wants to say that the game of chess is the game of geniuses, but no one wants to tell you that that game was invented by black people, the Moors. And the Moors realized and analyzed how colonization works. And they noticed that the aggressor is always who? The white man. What piece on the chessboard moves first? The white man. And the black pieces are always defending themselves against the white aggressor. And how do we know also this is a black game? Because it is non-patriarchal. The most important piece on the game is the what? The queen. The black queen. So we have a whole black nation protecting this black queen, which is the mother of civilization, from the white aggressor. That's the game of chess. No one wants to tell you that chess represents black genius, black excellence. Let's go down to black excellence. When you are in martial arts and you achieve the highest rate of excellence, you aren't awarded with a white belt. The color of excellence is what?
Black.
Black belt. And because education started in Africa, we know that all universities, the mystery systems, training, anyone who wanted to study anything had to come to Africa. Socrates, Plato, you name it. They all had to go to Africa to study because that's where the schools were. The very concept of thinking, thought, is credited to the African god of thought. The very idea of thinking is thought, and racism has told us that black people are idiots. We're idiots because we don't know our history. We look at this whole reality of black genius in the creation of the word thought, black genius in terms of excellence in schools, and that's why all traditional caps and gowns are black, because black is the color of excellence and ingenious. Black is also the color of beauty and elegance, because when you want to get all beautiful and get all elegant and go out to an affair, you don't go to a white tie affair, you go to a black tie affair, because black is the color of elegance. It is a symbol of perfection. And we know that if you are a samurai, the tradition tells us it is impossible for you to be a samurai unless you have at least one drop of black blood in you. So I can go on and on and on by the book, folks, but I just want you to know that everything ain't all white. Black is the color of genius, beauty, intelligence. It's the color of fertility. When you want to go plant some seeds in the ground, you don't go look for white ground to plant it in. You're trying to look for the blackest, brownest ground that you can find. It's the symbol of fertility. And why not? The whole human race sprang from black people. First 100,000 years on the planet, all black folks. So we have to remember to learn our history. We don't do that. So how did we get black? Let's talk about that. That's the word you heard Taiwo use the other day, phenotype. Racism has given us a word called race, which does not exist. But phenotype is the word that we want to look at. Phenotype is a set of characteristics resulting from environment. Now, before we go into the naysayers, I want you to think about what happens in the winter. People start losing their tan and you start getting lighter. Why? Because there's no sun shining on your body. That just happens over the winter. What happens if the sun does not shine on your body for 10,000 years? You got to get rid of that melanin, because melanin is what gives Africans their dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes, so that they can thrive in the beautiful sunshine. Black people are sun-kissed. We are kissed by the sun, so we don't have to put on sunscreen. Our melanin does that for us. We are dark because we are the original people, and the original people evolved out of Africa. Africa is hot. So we have dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes to protect us from the sun. We are indigenous to the south of Africa. Humans started down here, Olduvai Gorge, came up through the Nile, and then we evolved out in this area. This entire area was called Kush, the Kushite Empire. Today, racism calls this the Middle East. Today, racism tells us that white people are indigenous to Northern Africa. How can white skin evolve in 120 degrees temperature on a daily basis? It's impossible. White people do not have black skin because they did not evolve in the sun. This is all DNA. This is about genetics. Genetics are not the problem. We can put a drop of my blood on the table right now and wait to see if it starts participating in criminal activity. We can put my skin on the table right now and wait to see if it's going to rape anybody or loot anybody. But it won't, because those are all racist, insane propaganda pieces we have been given. DNA is not the culprit. The culprit is the way people think. The problem rests in our minds. So Caucasians basically evolved in the Caucasus mountain range. We don't even know that the reason that they're called Caucasians, based on the German anthropologist Frederick Blumenbach, he named whites Caucasians because they evolved in the Caucasus mountain range between the Black and Caspian Sea. There's a mountain range called here, right here, the Caucasus Mountains. Notice this is nowhere near Africa. This is not Northern Africa. This is not what you call the Middle East. Caucasians evolved here, nowhere near Africa. So we have to get rid of all these racist lies that are being taught to us in the schools. I'm sorry, sweetie. The Caucasians are indigenous to Russia's Caucasus Mountain Range. Russia's not in Africa. And why am I showing you this image? This is called a self-identification chart. That's a lie. I didn't write this. I didn't write down these things to identify myself. That's racist propaganda. And if you go down to the bottom of this racist propaganda, and that's Frederick Blumenbach, who came up with the word Caucasian, you will see the last identity group, and it says white. origins of any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. I have been fighting this battle with the Census Bureau, with the people who make these documents for the last 2 years. I've been writing letter after letter. When I see an elephant, I call it out. I don't just let the elephant go on by. I say it. You speak up, say something, do something. Caucasians are not indigenous, ironically, to any of those areas. African people are. But what's in those areas? Some of the greatest historical architectural feats on earth, scientific feats on earth occurred in this area. That's why Caucasians want to claim that now, because they have to promote the alibi of white supremacy. How can white people say they're supreme if all of the greatest inventions, archaeological instructions, engineering, mathematics, sciences, if those were all invented by Africans, then how can Caucasians claim superiority? They can't. So we have to continue with the indoctrination of lies, because we have to continue with the concept of divide and conquer. So there was So what Caucasians did, what they invented, this concept of race. There's no such thing as race. We are all one human race. But if we are all one human race, like a circle, there's no beginning and end. That means that we are all the same. So that means no one's better than the other. So Caucasians had to say, no, there are different races. And not only are there different races, guess what? We're the superior race. So unless I create this misnomer of race, I can't create this misnomer of being the superior race. So this invention of the white race was invented. Theodore wrote this book, It Would Do You Well to Go. That's a 2-series book. I would try to use it in my classroom, and the minute I would pull it out, the students with eyes would just roll back in their heads because they thought it was too much information. You're right. Racism wants you to believe that knowledge is not attainable, accessible, or necessary. That's how they divide and conquer us. We don't know our history. We don't know that we are all united by one human genome, the human race. So, irrespective of one's phenotype, not saying the word race, get that word out of your mouth. Irrespective of how you look, that's what we're saying. The enemy is not how you look. The enemy is a racist mentality. The enemy is how you think. The enemy is inside your head. When you see someone walking down the street, you can't tell if they're a racist, because that lives in their head. When you see someone walk down the street, you can't tell if they're a rapist. That lives in their head. You can't tell if they're a con artist. You can't tell if they're a child molester. You don't know. Because what people are is how they think, not how they look. Racism wants us to believe that people are how they look. Not at all. People are how they think. And if we train people what to think, then we know how they would behave. So today, people don't believe what they see. We see what we believe. And if we believe...
Wait, Mommy, say that again.
People don't believe what they see. We see what we believe.
Facts.
So if you believe black is horrible, miserable, angry, criminal, when you see blacks, you see angry, criminal, horrible. You see what you believe. That's why it's crucial to change your belief system. The only thing that changes your belief system are words. Words are designed to shape your belief system. That's called epistemology. That's a whole nother thing we'll talk about later. But that's why we have to be very careful of the words we use, because we are simply reinforcing our oppression with the racist words that racism has given us. So, we have got to stop talking about race. Race is not the problem. Stop talking about racial bias, because that implies race. Stop talking about racial unrest. Stop talking about racial anything, because the problem is not race. The problem is racist American society. And anyone who is not talking about eliminating the myth of white psychopathy from every area of society is not talking about anything except reinforcing racism. Unless we get the myth of white supremacy out of the economic system, the education system, the entertainment system, the family system, the labor system, the political system, the religious system, the scientific systems, and the military systems, or until we remove white supremacy from all of those areas, we will never put a dent into racism. So let's be clear about who we are and where we are. This is a psychological revolution. This is a mental revolution. This is a revolution of the heart, the mind, the soul. It has nothing to do with militarism or war. That was the American Revolution of 1776. The American Revolution of 1776 was about fighting, war, guns, cannons. This is not. But even after the American Revolution of 1776, there was still racism. Blacks were still enslaved, which is why I never celebrate on the 4th of July. Blacks were still being humanly trafficked across the globe. Indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere were being slaughtered by this government. The design was to annihilate them. The Revolution of 1776 was to get Britain off of the colonists' necks. But this revolution, our revolution of 2020, revolution only means fast change, relax, folks. This revolution of 2020 is to get racism off our backs. So I know it's a lot. That's why we have to read, but we have to name it, claim it, end it. It's racism, not race. Anybody talking about race is part of the problem.
Ooh, that's a lot of people. Say that again.
Not the solution. If you're talking about race, you're part of the problem, not the solution. And let's continue with our conversations.
You sitting down?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So that's basically how the psychopathy works. So when you hear somebody say, oh, that's just black folks causing trouble, that's how that psychopathy works. Where I am more important than anybody else. I don't have to care about your feelings because I matter. That's psychotic. That is psychotic white psychopathy. That's a disease, people. America wants to tell you alcohol is a disease. Smoking is a disease. You can be a sex addict. But we're addicted to
racism.
Oh my God, you're looking at me.
Yeah. She's still not clear how this works, you guys. It's so funny.
Well, we're
Mommy,
where'd
you going? Mom, get in
you
there.
guys get on there.
Oh my God, Mommy, get in
Let me get some. My breath.
This
I gotta
is
take
this
some
is
water.
why we have her
My
literally
mouth.
sitting in between us
My mouth.
because she is trying to escape the camera. You guys, it's a real
Taiwo,
thing.
fix
It's a
it.
problem.
Let me get over
It's a
here.
problem. All right. There you go. All right.
You were looking at
Come on, Mom. Come on. Come on.
See, now I gotta, Lord Jesus, now I gotta scoot over.
Okay.
Okay, I'm
trying
gonna go here.
get her
You're gonna
situated.
go
So,
there.
you know, I'm
Yeah,
not one
yeah.
of those people who's about all the photo ops. I don't play that. I'm about the real work. That's all I want to do is work on racism. And I know there's some people out there who are thinking, gee, they seem kind of happy. Yes, I'm happy when I'm working to kill racism. I'm happy when I'm working on bringing justice. That brings me great joy. That's why I do it. I love it. Restoring humanity makes me happy. So when you see my daughters and I here laughing because we are working to fight racism. A lot of people, I would hear my students or children say something like, oh, Miss Kujichagulia, I'm bored. And it would just break my heart. Sweetie, how can you be bored in a world of problems, in a world of something to do?
Yeah.
You can all be doing something except playing games on the computer. You can be doing something except going out to the beach. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go out to the beach and enjoy your life. Yes, you should enjoy your life. Because you only have this one. But because you only have this one, and we all only get one chance, why not make it the best one it can be?
Yeah.
Why not make it free of racism, free of sexism, free of homophobia, free of Islamophobia, free of ageism? I'm fighting ageism, sexism, and racism every day. It's tiring. No wonder black people have such high blood pressure. This is tiring. And I'm kind of out of. I'm thirsty. So let's take a few of the comments and see what's going on out there. Whew.
Do you want to read them or do you want
Am I the one reading comments?
Yeah, you do it today.
Okay.
No, I can't see them.
Okay, let's see. So, hey, if you guys have any questions, please type them in the comments. So we're going to answer questions. Ready to wake up the brain. Yes, that's what Miss Claudia says.
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, you guys, I'm scrolling on 2 phones, so please be patient with me. Here's a question. She says, this is Christy Grant. Hey, Christy, I have a question. I'm speaking adulation. Why are some black people opposed to the Black Lives Matter movement?
Well, remember, psychopathy exists in the mind, and we have all been trained to hate black people.
Yep.
Remember, it's not our fault. Some of us have been able to wake up and say, oh my gosh, I am addicted to insanity, and then we work our way out of it. Everybody's not, as the youth say, woke.
We ain't all the
I mean, I remember when I was young and dumb, I didn't know that there was a war going on and the war was against me. I didn't know that. I had to wake up. Thank goodness there were artists and people, and there was revolution going on around me all the time. There was this freedom movement going on. But we all are not in the same place at the same time.
Right.
We've all been trained to hate black, and remember, nobody does it better than black folks. We've all been trained to hate. So of course they're going to be against the Black Lives Movement, because why? Racism tells us to be against it. And we have to be good Americans and do what we've been programmed to do. You have to wake up and wipe that off of you every day. Get it out of your mind. It's possible to change, but you have to change your mind first. And why are people upset? And this is how deep the psychopathy is. Racism's okay. Why psychopathy's okay. But how dare you say that you don't want to be mistreated? That's disgusting. That's a crisis. How dare you say your lives matter, black people? That's how deep the psychosis is. Go back and read the definitions. Narcissism, psychopathy, all the insanity of injustice is psychopathy.
So that was the only question. There are other comments. I don't know.
Did you look at the comments?
I did. I did look at the comments. Did I not do my job well? I don't know that Taiwo knows what she's doing. I feel like I should be the resident comment.
Yeah, I think you should.
I will go check.
Well, listen, I know we're probably kind of close, but I want everybody to know that tomorrow we will be talking about white psychopathy and all these 10 areas of society. We'll be talking about how they show up, what they look like, what this really means. Because anyone who's not talking about these 10 areas and how to eradicate it is not part of the solution. They're part of the problem. So please make sure you tune in tomorrow, because we will be saying specifically what these 10 areas are, exactly what they look like. Yes, it is an institution. They're all institutionalized. And we will show exactly what needs to be done to eliminate racism.
Christy said she notices most of those persons are from the South. The black people who are against the Black Lives Matter movement.
That's deep.
What I wanted to say that I totally forgot when I sat down is, if you're just joining us, please, once the live video is over, go back and look at the beginning, because we do define the terms like phenotype, white psychopathy. We go through all those definitions, and those are definitions that people need to be aware of, so that when we have this conversation about racism, people can actually have a conversation that's going to lead to lasting change, as opposed to continuing to have conversations about race. Right. Instead of having conversations about race, because race is not a thing. We're all one human race, and we need to define things as they are. Things don't happen based on people's race. It's not because I'm black. It's because what people have been programmed to believe about people functioning in brown skin. So we need to be very clear on the language we use, on the definitions that we use. And so please, if you did not see the beginning of this video, go back and look at those definitions, so that when we have conversations with other people, we can bring the truth to the table. Right? So I feel like some people feel like, oh, I'm not making a big enough dent, except that all of us operate in different circles, and sometimes those circles overlap and sometimes they don't, but all of us have a ripple effect, right? You can have a meeting at work with your coworkers, you can talk to them, you can redefine people's language. You can change people's vocabulary based on having conversations with them. And every single time we do that, we have a ripple effect that moves outward. And then we do that. We talk to maybe 5 people. Those 5 people change their vocabulary. Those 5 people are going to talk to 5 more people. Those 5 people change their vocabulary. And so it goes on and on that way. So don't ever feel like you're not having a big enough impact. You're making a huge impact. There are people in history who never thought they were having the impact that they were. They were just minding their business. Harriet Tubman didn't live her life and go, I think I want to be a historical figure one day. I'm trying to make a huge impact. No. She lived her life. She said slavery is wrong as hell. I'm going to send it back into the pits of hell where it belongs.
Hello, yes.
My Lord and Savior said, I'm free, so I'm free. And she said, I can't be happy being free by myself. I got to go back for my family. She went back for her family. She found other people who were ready to run. She took those people. She led the Union Army into a successful raid, the first woman to ever do that. She didn't live her life going, I'm not making a big enough impact. Don't worry about the impact. Your impact is exactly what it should be.
Just do anything. Just do the work. And everything you can do. And remember, the reality of racism is to protect racism. So we are taught to blame the victim. How dare those black people want justice? They're just crazy. Blame the victim. When we were looking at sexism, oh, you must have got raped because you were wearing the wrong type of clothes. Blame the victim. Stop blaming the victim. That's one of those indoctrinated psychoses that we have all come to love and cherish. Find the victim, blame the victim. Stop doing that. So instead of saying that the racism incarcerates blacks, we say blacks are in the prison system. That's blaming the victim. Change the syntax, the way we phrase that. The other thing is the media. The media is the guardian of American culture. Their job is to protect it. So they will always give us an attraction distraction.
That's right.
So they will talk about the protests. They will talk about the protesters, the demonstrators. Then they will talk about people who have nothing to do with justice, like people who are doing illegal activities. I'm not even going to use that language because they want me to use it, because they want me to give you that distraction. We are not distracted. We must stay focused. Don't allow yourself to be distracted. Racism wants us to believe that this is about protest, so that when the protests stop, they want us to believe that racism has stopped. Don't get caught up with the distraction. Don't get caught up with blaming the victim, because I protest every day. I work against racism every day. You may never see me in the street because I don't have to go out into the street to do it. But when I go out in the street and I see it, I call people on it. Stop blaming the victim. Don't get caught up in the distraction. Be focused on fast change. Don't get caught up in the disgusting way America has taught us to look at the word revolution, because America loves revolution. We'll celebrate it tomorrow on the 4th of July.
Well, next month.
Excuse me.
Tomorrow.
I feel like we in this. Okay, thank you.
True Grad says, I'm free, but I can't be happy if I'm free by myself.
That's right, True Grad.
And
one of my former students from World College West.
Christy said, thank you so much for this. I'm grateful. I want to advocate correctly. Danny Diallo says, how about setting up a Zoom meeting to have these conversations /lessons /awakenings? That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Diallo.
Although for personal reasons, and if you've ever been on my page or Kehinde's page, we really dislike
Zoom.
Oh my gosh, and I am anti-tech anyway, but
it's useful to
my family, Diallo out there, my friends from Barbados, my family in Barbados who are now in the States here. Brother does amazing work. That's all he do. That's what we did. That's how we united and became such good friends, because we have been working on racism for the past 20 years together. My brother and I have been doing it phenomenal.
Okay, wait, Mommy, because you all need to understand how effective just education is, right? So I'm gonna ask my mom to tell this story about your student at World College West.
God.
You guys really need to hear this. I want you to be inspired. No, that's fine. We're fine. I want you to be inspired. So I was having a conversation with a coworker earlier today, and he said, well, what are you thinking? I said, I'm really inspired right now because I've never seen this much solidarity in my lifetime. And I'm 40 years old. And my father, who was born in racist Louisiana in 1942, he passed away before he could see this moment.
Yes.
I am really in shock and awe right now about how much solidarity there is worldwide and how much momentum we are getting in this current moment worldwide, and the push. And if we can focus that energy on eliminating racism versus enacting policy change, because policies will not kill racism.
No.
Policy changes won't do it. We will just be existing with different policies, and racism will still exist. So we want to increase the momentum and also focus the energy on eliminating racism. But I want my mom to tell this story about this very racist, this student who was raised in racist South Africa, a white man, a white man, and what her experience was teaching him and what the end result was, because it's amazing, and that is the power of education.
This was at World College West, which was a fabulous institution. I know all you people out there from World College West, true grad, who are still, in the mode of bringing justice forth. And I was teaching a class, Ethnology and African Civilizations. And I had one student who would always want to reinforce how wonderful slavery is. And slavery is a wonderful thing. And he was always trying to tell us that apartheid was great and that we needed white people to civilize black people. See, we don't know our history. And he would go on. And the students in class, the other college students, would be so perturbed. And it was called World College West because these students were all over the world, which is wonderful. And the students would sometimes just want to jump on this student, and I would have to intervene in his behalf so that he would not hurt him. And they couldn't understand why I wouldn't let them, or I wouldn't want to hurt him. Don't think now that I didn't want to, change him immediately, but I knew that when you change the mind, it's going to take a little time. So I just continued with the class. I just continued teaching the truth, because the truth will set you free.
Amen.
We're stuck in lies, that black lives don't matter. So that's why we have to just know the truth. That's why you have to go back and get that history. Because once you know the truth will set you free and things will change. So the more I taught, the more truth came out. That individual started talking more and changing. Found out he was born and raised in racist South Africa, Azania, Monomatapa, and that he was raised with the epistemology, the mindset that blacks are horrible savages, as we all were. So that's what he believed. Remember, it's not his fault. That system's here. It's our fault if we continue to believe it. But the more we talked, the more he realized everything he was taught was a lie. He started learning the truth, because that's what I did. I brought the truth. That's why I love being an educator. By the time he finished the class, he had called his parents back in South Africa. They had disowned him. He had disowned them. He had started working with the Socialist Party, and he also helped to get Lenore Fulani, the second black female to run for president in this country. We don't know our history.
Shirley Chisholm was the first.
Lenore Fulani was the second. He worked on her campaign, and his parents hated him. But then he went on to try to educate his parents. So that's why we have to be gentle with each other.
That's right.
We were all taught to hate. If we don't know the truth, we can't help grow out of this psychopathy.
And she certainly would have never reached him if she was just screaming and yelling at him and being rude to him. So,
and he calls me. We call each other now. He tells me, Miss Kujichagulia, I'm working in this country on justice. Miss Kujichagulia, and I don't even want to tell you how many prison inmates that I have helped get out of prison who call me from around the world. Say, Miss Kujichagulia, we're doing wonderful things. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We've got to communicate. We have got to talk to each other, because when we isolate ourselves, we can reinforce our hatred.
Right.
That's why there's so many young whites out here who are standing for justice, because they have some black friends.
Right.
We all have friends of different color,
That's
and they're
right.
realizing the things that I was taught, they
Don't make
don't
sense.
fit.
Right.
So you have to think. Don't just listen, accept, regurgitate, defend. Think for yourself. Use your critical thinking skills. Use common sense. Use logic. Use wisdom. Those things are absent from this society. They're not taught in the miseducation system. You have to do it for yourself. Read books.
And be compassionate. Yes, read books. And be compassionate to other people, because it's through
Please.
compassion that people will learn. When teachers know, you can't teach students who you have a relationship with like this.
Yes.
You cannot. It's not going to work. They will never learn anything from you if they feel like you're angry with them, you're upset with them, you don't like them. It's impossible. You have to operate in compassion, because it's not people's fault that what they learn.
I know we're over. I want to apologize right now, but I just thought of an amazing story that my daughter reminded me of about compassion. Because I have taught in every prison in Northern California, Soledad, Vacaville, Pelican Bay, you name it, I taught there. And I loved teaching there. That's another story.
Wait, tell them why. Wait, she got to tell you why she left OUSD to teach in the prison. Why, Mommy? Tell them why. Tell them.
Let me tell this story first. So it got to the point, prison is a microcosm of society. It's just as racist as anywhere else. They got the Aryan Brotherhood. Everybody's in there fighting each other. We're all taught divide and conquer, divide and conquer. But if you came in prison and taught, you were only supposed to go to that class if the teacher looked like you.
That's crazy.
So if I walked in, that means my students should be black. But because my classes were the bomb, I had everybody in my class. I had Latinos in my class. I had whites in my class. I had Asians. I had blacks. I had folks from all over the world in my class, and we had a ball in there. And I noticed that a lot of my students who were not black would come back in crutches sometimes, and they'd come back, and I'm saying, I thought they were, kind of clumsy. And they said, Ms. Kujichagulia, we are getting beat. We're getting tortured for being in your class because we are not reinforcing racism. So our people are telling us that they shouldn't come to your class because we're not black and you are. They said, but we have to stand up. So that's why we come. And I thought, oh my gosh, these people are getting hurt because they want to come hear the truth. So I thought, this has got to stop. Well, but I didn't stop going. I continued to go and teach. So that's when the racists realized if the students would continue to go, we should kill her. That's when they put a contract on me. Well, one of the contracts was at Vacaville Prison. If you had any mental problems in the United States and you were sent to prison in Northern California, you ended up in Vacaville. So I was doing a class at Vacaville. These people are mentally challenged, and I don't care. They're still human beings, and I'm going to go where the human beings are. So I didn't know any of them. This was my first. I didn't know any of these people. I walked in. It was a class of about 20 white men, huge white men. I didn't know that there was already a plan to have me killed in class that day. So the classes are 3 hours long. I'm locked in with the inmates, and the custody officers are supposed to stay there with me the whole 3 hours. I looked up 5 minutes after those gates slammed, and I looked up and realized all the custody officers had left the room. I am in the room all by myself with all these white students that I don't have a relationship with. And they were supposed to kill me. I found that out later.
And they had mental illness.
And they had mental
That
illness.
part.
So yeah, thank you. So we were at the table, and it was a long table, like you know, 2 tables put together because it was a long room, and everybody was on the tables on this side, me at the head, and then another one there. 5 minutes into that class, all the custody officers left, and all of a sudden, I started talking. And it seemed like it happened in a flicker of an instant. The white gentleman at the end of the table, which must have been a good 7 yards away from me, pulled out his chair, stood up, leaped up, and jumped on top of the table. It seemed like in my mind it happened just like that, like magic. He jumped on top of the table and he said, "Ah!" And he started running towards me. All the students at the table backed up. and he's running towards me, and I thought, wow, ancestors, my children will kill me if I don't come home tonight. They already don't want me working in prison. As he's charging me, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I resorted to the one thing that I know heals everything. I started singing, and I started singing an African chant so nobody could say I was saying anything wrong. And I started singing, and then I slowly got it. By the time he got to me, his feet were here, my face were here, and I stood up and I started dancing a little bit. He started dancing. Then all the students around started dancing, and we all started dancing. He jumped down from the table, and we're all singing and dancing. I had to sing and dance for 3 hours. 3 hours. 3 hours later, the custody officers came in smiling because they know I would be dead, and they could say, oh, well, the inmates killed her. And I wish you could have seen their faces when they walked in and we were all singing and dancing. That's the power of music. That's the power of the arts. That's the power of thinking outside the box.
Outside the box.
And not reacting to violence with violence.
Yes, say that again, Mommy.
We must educate at all times.
At all times.
And this, we have to remember, this is not a moment. Don't get caught up with that lie.
Yeah.
This is not a movement. Don't get caught up with that distraction. This is a revolution
of the mind.
We are changing the way people think so that everyone believes, you know what? We're all important.
We're all human beings.
All of our lives matter. Whether you're young, old, black, it doesn't matter. We're one human race. We have lost our humanity. And in that moment, I restored the humanity for all of those inmates.
Yep. Those inmates.
And that's another reason that I worked in prison for almost 20 years, because they don't see humanity.
That's right.
And how did they get there? An inhumane system
That's
got
right.
them
That's
there.
right.
Yes.
Which is why I continue to teach. We wait for people to grow up. We wait till they get broken.
Right.
Then we want to fix them. Well, now I already believe black lives don't matter. It's too late. We have to start when the babies are in the womb. From the minute they get here, start saying positive things about people around your children. Start saying things happen to me because I'm black. They don't. They happen because of racism. Then children grow up knowing I have to fight racism.
Right.
As opposed to I have to hate black. I have to stop being black.
I have to stop being my natural self.
Yes, your words are going to shape the world. We have got to make sure we shape the world for humanity. That's a revolutionary movement. That's the revolution that I'm about. That's the revolution that's going on right now. It's not a movement. It's not a moment. It's a revolution for humanity.
To restore people's humanity.
The end of racism.
That's
We're
right.
getting rid of it. And we're going to tell you how to do it exactly in every area of society tomorrow.
There's a question that says, Kiki says, you're amazing, Miss Kujichagulia. Christy says, that's the power of love. Kiki says, yes. Miss Claudia says, it's also your beautiful vibes.
Aww.
Lily says, a revolutionary of the mind. Yes. And then Lionel Green says, what about us? I want to answer this question, okay? Because I've been looking at it for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Lionel Green says, what about us who are not Christian? I'm Buddhist, and I have been for about 2 decades. How can I combat the scourge of racism? I gotta be tagged in. Here I come. Hey! Let me just say this, because I love that question. And I gotta say that I love our family, because Taiwo and I are Christians. We're Jesus all day long.
Yeah, they are.
And just like our grandfather, who was a Baptist minister, he built his own church in New Orleans. My mother is not a Christian.
But my mom, if my mom could have been the Pope, she would have been the Pope.
She was a super Catholic.
Oh, man.
My mom.
But here's the thing. And you see how well we work each other? Because it doesn't matter what your religion is. Do we love each other? Do we respect each other?
Yes.
If you love people and you respect people,
doesn't matter
what your religion is. We can still all work to eradicate racism all day, every day.
Because love is not a tenet of
universal.
anyone.
It's not a religion.
It's not a religion.
And remember,
love is universal.
We keep forgetting we are one human race.
Yeah.
Keep saying that. We are one human race. We are not separate races. We are one human race. We are not separate races. We are one human race. But who benefits when we do that? That's what we'll talk about tomorrow. 1% of the global population benefits as long as 99% of us are divided so that we can be conquered. It's 99% against the 1% who want to maintain inhumanity on this planet. You see us all around the world. 99% of the people on earth want justice, humanity, humanism,
dignity,
time to change. And not, you saw the pictures I showed you, that was my childhood 50 years ago, 60 years ago. We're still here. That's why I'm using the word revolution. I'm clear on what revolution is. Fast change. Don't fear it. Don't freak out. Do it.
Lena Harvey says, where were you when I was growing up? She was teaching our classes in school.
Yeah.
That's my student from BCC.
What time is it?
That's all the questions.
Okay, we're over.
It's 3 o'clock. Oh, it's 3 o'clock.
Oh,
okay.
we made it in time.
We're not,
I'm
it's
so
not
happy.
super late.
So tomorrow, really, take notes. Buy the book. Do the work.
Do the work, yes.
It's not hard. And let me tell you, when you are working for peace, when you're working for justice, when you're working on humanity, you laugh and smile too.
You do.
Because you know you're making the world a better place. Oh, I have a picture of it.
Where? Is it on this
On
one
one
or
of
is it on?
these.
It might be on this
The
one.
new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm real bad at promotion. I never think to promote me because I'm busy doing the work. But my daughter said I need to show the book, so it should be the one under the last one on there.
Yeah,
so the book is recognizing and resolving the roots of racism.
That's right.
It was written over 30 years ago. I am rewriting the book now as we speak, and I'm also working on a lot of other tools to eliminate racism. The book is Recognizing and Resolving Racism. My website, www.resolvingracism. Real simple. resolvingracism.com. Miss Kweze, I'm hoping you're going to help me with my website because it's been stuck for 7 years looking exactly the same. There's no revolution going on that website.
Lena Harvey says she bought the book. Yay!
Cool. So my website is moving at a snail's pace. It's an evolution.
It's an evolutionary process. It is an evolutionary process.
However, it is resolving racism because that's my purpose in life. Everybody on this planet was put here for a reason.
That's right.
That's right.
We are all here and now. It's no accident. I was not born during the days of enslavement because I probably never would have made it. I'd have killed everybody. We are all born into a time and period because we have a purpose to fulfill.
That's right.
We are caught up in the distractions of fad, fantasy, fame, fortune. That does not further humanity. Helps capitalism, helps imperialism, not humanity. We need to change the way we think about things. So we are dealing with this reality of not racial justice, because there can be no racial justice if you believe there's separate races. You are reinforcing racism.
Right.
We want the elimination of racism.
And I would just like to say, because I keep getting this question, a lot of people are asking, is the book only available on Amazon? There's one other bookstore that has it, but unfortunately they're in San Antonio, Texas.
Not unfortunately,
San
Antonio.
But if you're not in San Antonio.
But they will mail it to you
They
anywhere.
will. It's called the Organization of Black Unity.
And you can get the book through them. You go to my website and then you will get the information and the address, because I have to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm supporting black folks at all times. So I got to make sure that everybody gets to share in the wealth, not just one company, one business, one thing. And I tell you, usually I'm out of books because I spend most of my time just sending my books into the prisons. I give a lot of books away into the prison. So I'm not here for the money. I don't do it for the money. And you can imagine there's no job on earth that you can go and look for a job and say, fighting racism.
I've never seen that job.
Never seen that job. So I do what I can on pennies. And even now, I have lost my job. My job doesn't exist. Even though I love to teach, I can't teach anymore because they have just fired all the part-time teachers. So I probably will never step into a classroom again. However, I will always continue to fight racism. I will continue to write books. I will continue to write articles.
And we're going to make sure
presentations. I will continue.
Yeah. And we're going to make sure that there are always ways to be able to access what my mom can teach, or what my mom teaches, even though she may not physically be in the same space as you. We're creating ways where she can bring you this information in a digital platform, because that's our reality right now as a result. I mean, it was our reality before, but especially now, as a result of the pandemic. So we are ensuring that you do have access to the information, and we'll let you guys know how to be able to access that before we wrap up these 7 days.
And I'm also developing a game. That's where I wanted to go, because we have to stop waiting for children to grow up to then try to think correctly.
Right.
Why don't we start from the moment they're babies, as I do and try to always do. So I have developed games that will engage people in humanity from age 2 on up into 65 adulthood. That's a whole nother story. That's just busy work. But basically just here to say that look in the mirror. You are the leader. You are the one to make this change. We do it now. It's called fast change. Don't fear it. Don't be afraid of revolution. Don't be caught up in the Stockholm syndrome. Move forward and progress with a revolution of the mind. It's not a moment. It's not a movement. It's a revolution. It's time to eliminate racism. Not 50 more years. I don't have 50 more years. Now. Revolution. Name it.
Claim it.
End it. Racism. Yes, Christy, there will be a shareable version of this on YouTube, and we'll let you guys know when that's uploaded. All right. Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow with day 4.
Work.